Hello, everybody. Welcome to All Villa No Filler. Please remember to like and subscribe. I'm feeling slightly under the weather, so forgive me if I sound a little bit raw, throated, something like that, maybe. But firstly, something that's going to make me feel a lot better is the fact that there's big news in the world of All Villa No Filler. We have been nominated for Best Podcast Premier League by the Football Content Awards. It is an absolutely amazing honor. Incredible to think we've been building this podcast, for a couple of years now, and for it to have, got a nomination and recognition like this to be able to go to an awards show at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is just absolutely beyond anything I really ever imagined when we started doing this. I've absolutely loved doing it. I've particularly loved meeting fellow Villa fans. I know that sounds probably quite cheesy, but I have. It's just been brilliant. Lots of Villa fans I've met down here in London, London Lions as well. But also kind of when I go up to Villa Park and come across people and who listen to or watch the podcast. And it really has just been an incredible experience and getting to meet, people who I've interviewed on here as well. People have been really supportive. It's just been fantastic. And so the award itself, I'm going to repeat this probably through to mid-October when the voting closes, but it's half fan voting, half judge voting. So look, if we can get any votes, that is very much appreciated. If you like what we do, I'll leave the link below. It's on the Football Content Awards website. There is a page there where you can vote. Please do go on there. I'll leave the link below. Click on it. I'll leave it on audio if you're listening and on YouTube as well in the pinned comment. We've been nominated. Her Game 2 as well, one that I know Priyanka Jasraj is involved with. They do fantastic work as well. Priyanka's a fantastic Villa fan as well. I've had her on the show before. And also Villa on Tour. Max Stokes has been nominated for Best Club Content Creator. Max's work is, again, absolutely fantastic. Villa fans love it, don't they? You can see the popularity he's got and the work that he puts into it. And again, let's just be part of the Villa family. Let's nominate everybody involved with the Villa there. So please do, vote for us as Best Podcast Premier League and have a look at Matt Stokes as well. Please vote for him, Best Club Content Creator, because as I say, I think we're very fortunate within the Villa verse, I guess, that there's just a lot of really good people and people that work really hard and lots of brilliant podcasts and brilliant channels, and everyone's really friendly and all that. So it's thank you to everyone who said really nice stuff since. And I'll repeat again in the next few weeks, about the voting. But please do vote for us there. Anyway, look, Aston Villa have a game, don't they, this weekend? Now, I spoke to Benjamin Bloom from the Blue Monday podcast. I can't believe the number of positive reactions that have come in. That people really, really like Benjamin Bloom. Firstly, I think he's fantastic. I do remember him from the Championship days when Villa were there as well, and I've watched a lot of his content over the years. Villa fans are very much, the comments below that video and that I've received online have been really fantastic. So go watch that as well. He gives really good insight into Ipswich, his thoughts on Ipswich playing Aston Villa. And, one thing that really sticks out to me is how when I listen to opposition fans talk about Aston Villa these days, it's quite surreal hearing how much respect Villa have now, just as a not just as a kind of historic club. I think we've always had that, but more as a team that, are quite scary to go up against these days, if I'm honest. We have a real we carry a real presence, and the way that in the past I would talk about teams like, top teams that would come into play Villa, and you'd think, oh, we haven't got a chance. Villa do carry that sort of air about them at times now, which is just amazing. It's amazing to be living through, and the amount of respect that Benjamin shows to Aston Villa, and of course, I share the same to Ipswich. I mean, what Ipswich have done in the last 2 years is absolutely incredible. What Kieran McKenna's done with that team, and a lot of those players have gone from League One to the Championship and now into the Premier League, is an absolutely remarkable achievement. And I like Ipswich. I think they're, there's certain teams you associate with the Premier League going way back to when it first began. Dan Bardell actually just posted a video on Twitter of a goal that Villa scored way back in the early 90s. That is one of my favourite all-time Villa goals. Dean Saunders against Ipswich from how he did that. What a player he was, Dean Saunders. That was just a genius of a player, really. Amazing finish, that very memorable. And I do remember going to see Villa play Ipswich. I think it was in 2001, and I want to say Juan Pablo Angel scored twice. Ipswich took the lead through Finidi George, who was a legendary Real Mallorca player as well. It was around the time Ipswich came fifth in the Premier League. I think maybe in the season after they got relegated. But look, they've been away from the Premier League for far too long. There's a couple of teams that were like that. Forest until recently. Sheffield Wednesday, another one. And I'd say Ipswich now, they're back where they should be. It's somewhere they should have been a bit more regularly than they've been in the last 20 years. It's been a tough old time for them. So it's brilliant to see them back, and I'm wishing them well this season. But look, let's look ahead to the game this weekend. So here it is, the tactical pad, our trusty old friend. As I always say on YouTube, you can see the visual here, but for those listening on audio, I will, talk as though, you can't see the screen to make it as accessible as possible. Now, as you can see here, if you are on YouTube, I've gone with the Villa team that played against, in our most recent game, not Wickham, against Wolves. Now, one or two things I think might happen though is that Diego Carlos is. I mean, the man gets injured, doesn't he? And it looks like something happened to him in the warm up against Wickham. If he's not fit, do you know what I'm going to say happens? I'm going to say Ezri Konsa goes to centre back. Diego Carlos obviously isn't there if he's unfit. And I'm going to say Kosta Nedeljkovic gets his start at right back. I think when Unai Emery talked about him recently, he said he needs to learn tactically. I think when you think of Unai Emery teams, it tends to be the left back who pushes forward, doesn't it? And the right back tends to sit and then form a back three. So once that left back goes on, you have five at the front, and then you have the two centre midfielders who sit, closer to the back three to form that defensive line in case the opposition team wins it back and tries to break. And I guess what Nedeljkovic likes to do is bomb on. He likes to underlap, overlap, sends ball into the areas. And I guess maybe Unai Emery looked at it and thought maybe there were things he saw in pre-season or against Arsenal when Nedeljkovic came on, or against West Ham, where he maybe thought that Nedeljkovic wasn't timing those runs properly. Maybe he was going forward when he should have been sitting back, and maybe I don't know. Personally, I thought against West Ham he came on and looked a bit nervous, which was understandable as a teenager coming on for your Premier League debut away from home and coming up against a Mohamed Kudus. But I think that then playing against Arsenal, I think he did a really good job against Martinelli in particular. And look at how good Martinelli was against Man City just last week. But Nedeljkovic, I think against Trossard, okay, he had a bit more of a lesson. But, I like Bogard a lot. I rate him a lot. I don't think he's a right back. Maybe Unai Emery wants to convert him into a player who can do what Ezri Konsa does, where he can play centre back and he can play right back. But there's just something about Nedeljkovic when I saw him against Wickham again. Every time I've seen him in pre-season, every time I've seen videos of him at Red Star and watching him against Wickham, I thought against Wickham as a teenager, he looked like one of the senior pros. I thought he was tall, he was strong, his decision making was really good. There was one occasion where he pushed forward as well and broke between the lines and could have created a chance for himself. I just think he's just the player I think should be at right back. Though I'm never going to be one to question Professor Unai. Unai knows what he wants, what he can get, and I'm sure he sees something in Bogard that he can play at right back and do that, centre back as a right back role that a lot of teams are doing these days. But I just think Nedeljkovic, with his height and physicality, can play as a centre back as well if needed. So I'd like to see him get a bit more minutes at right back, particularly with Matty Cash out. And so I'm going to just say, if Carlos is out, it's going to be one of Bogard and Nedeljkovic, most likely, isn't it? If Carlos is fit, I think he starts at centre back and Konsa goes to right back. But we'll see. Professor Unai's going to have to balance up these minutes a bit because we've got bloody Ipswich away. It's going to be high octane and difficult. 3 days later, we've got Bayern Munich in the Champions League. And then on the Sunday, we've got Manchester United at home. 3 massive games in 1 week. Haven't just played Wolves at the weekend, just played Wickham in midweek. There's a lot of games all in quick succession, and then another bloody international break, which, oh man, what football authorities are doing to players these days, what the amount they're forcing them to play is just absurd. We talked about it in the Spice question the other day, but so my thoughts on that if you listen to that episode. Anyway, so I'm just saying, I think Nedeljkovic is going to have to get some minutes soon, because we're going to have to give these guys minutes. And, with Carlos, can he do 3 games in a week? Because ideally, I think we want Carlos against Bayern Munich and Conte at right back, because I don't think we want to stick our young players in there at right back when they've got bloody Serge Gnabry running at them. But that said, Nedeljkovic does have the experience, international experience and Champions League experience. So if he came in, I actually think he might actually do an all right job. I'd certainly be a little bit more confident with him than I would be with Bogard at right back at the moment. I think Bogard's just he looks young, and I think that I rate him very highly. I think he's got a very high ceiling, but I think you just have to bet him into the team for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, rather than throwing him in the deep end straight away, 90 minutes here and there, right? Just my thought on it. I actually thought he did quite well against Wickham as well, when he started the entire game. Anyway, and at left back, I think Villa might have to balance up the minutes again, and we're in dreamland at left back because we've got Luca Dean and Ian Matson. I suspect he's going to go with Luca Dean against Bayern Munich, because I think that Luca Dean is probably a little bit more a player that you would just think is defensively a little bit more solid. And Matson, somebody who loves to get on forward. Now, whoever it is, we're lucky because they're two absolutely top quality left backs. But I'm just going to say that Matson playing the full 90, I think. He played most of the game against Wickham. He started anyway. I'm going to say he starts this weekend against Ipswich, and that's again. I don't want to second guess it. It's either going to be Luca Dean or it's going to be Ian Matson, isn't it? It's one of the two. So, whatever happens, happens. But that's where I think the areas of question marks are, I think, around the Villa team. Otherwise, I think it's Torres and Konsa or Carlos at centre back, Martinez in goal, Tielemans and Arna as a midfield pivot. I don't think Ross Barkley starts. I think he's still at his best when he comes on. And when Villa are pushing for a goal, he comes on as that player who just keeps up that relentless nature. He's been brilliant for us recently. I think in the role he's playing as that sub-impact player is what's working for him at the moment. And then you've got although that said, again, he's going to have to balance up the minutes at some point. So does Tielemans come out and Barkley goes in? That could happen. That could happen. I'm not saying it won't happen. Then we've got Jacob Ramsey, Watkins, Rogers, and Bailey as that kind of four up top. I don't think Duran starts. I think he keeps him as the impact sub at the moment. But we'll see. Anyway, Ipswich. Now, I've sort of gone with the team I had against Southampton most recently. So that's a back line of Axel Twanzebe, player we know very well. Good to see you again, Axel. We have a lot of affection for you at Villa Park. Darrow Shea as well, somebody they signed from Burnley this summer. Jacob Greaves, someone they signed from Hull. This summer, Leif Davis, who I'll talk about at length in a minute. Their left back, Muric in goal from Burnley. They signed him. Muric, a player who every time I seem to see highlights of him seems to make terrible errors for Burnley. But although he'll make a horrendous error, as he's already done one this season against Man City, but then he'll pull off like 2 or 3 of the greatest saves you've ever seen in your life. Quite a weird goalkeeper. Sam Morsey and Calvin Phillips as the double pivot. Calvin Phillips missed the Southampton game. He was out with an injury. They had a player called Jens Kahuste, I think his name is, they've got on loan from Napoli. He was part of that double pivot. So we'll wait and see on Calvin Phillips. But if Phillips is fit, I assume he comes in and starts alongside Sam Morsey, who's an Ipswich legend, of course. Wes Burns on the right. Omari Hutchinson, a player they got in from Chelsea this summer. Zamodic, I think is how you pronounce it, a player they've also got him from who previously was at Blackburn as a left midfielder, and Liam Delap, who they signed from Man City, who was on loan at Hull last season. So what you can see from a lot of the quick description I just said there's not a lot of Premier League experience in this team. Darragh Shea is a centre back. He has that 1 year at Burnley. Muric has played in the Premier League, goalkeeper. Twanzebe has played in the Premier League, though the last time he was in it didn't go brilliantly when he was on loan with Villa. Calvin Phillips is their most experienced player, and I think they're going to be relying a lot on him this season to show his experience and to refine the form. He just needs a fresh break somewhere, and I'm sure he can refine it like Ross Barkley did when he went to Luton. He's got enough quality about him to do that. And then Zamodic is an experienced player. Sam Morsey is an experienced player, but they're not really heavy Premier League experienced players. Delap and Hutchinson, they're both very young. Delap's 21, Hutchinson's 20. Leif Davis, the left back, 24. None of them have played in the Premier League really with any great, um, uh, to a great extent. So again, and Wes Burns on the right as well. So it reminds me a little bit of Wolves, where I described it last week, where they're relying on a lot of players who don't necessarily have tons and tons of experience in the Premier League. And, Kieran McKenna's going to have to just, I think, work smartly and hope that his players can adapt quickly to the pressures of the Premier League. But I think Ipswich at the moment had a brutal start to the season, having Liverpool at home first. Welcome to the Premier League, guys. And then who they got next? Maybe a nice visit somewhere that you think you maybe pick up points. No, Man City. So could not have gone any bloody harder than that, could it? But, yes, they lost the first game 2-0 to Liverpool, they lost 4-1 at Man City, but I think City's it's just a write off that. You just go, fine, whatever. It's how you react to that. Don't let it get into your head. They've reacted to it with 3 draws. 1-1 at home with Fulham, a 0-0 away at Brighton. Tremendous result with Brighton being unbeaten this season. And a 1-1 away at Southampton with a late equaliser from Sam Morsey. A game which I think they probably got away with it a little bit. I think Cameron Archer probably should have scored at least another for Southampton. And a little bit, got away with it a bit. But look, 3 draws. So they're building a solid foundation there as they build up their experience in the Premier League and get used to it. They just need that win now. That's all it is. Just get that win. And hopefully it doesn't come against Aston Villa at Portman Road. But, who's to say it won't? I think the Fulham game, the 1-1, was a positive sign for them. I think it was, Fulham are a good side, experienced in the Premier League, lots of experienced Premier League players. I think that was a positive sign for them. Now, I'm going to focus on their key players. Now, one of their key players, I believe, is this man, Leif Davis, their left back. He's 24 years of age. He's played the full 90 in every game so far this season. They signed him from Leeds 2 years ago when they were in League One. So he's been with them throughout the journey from League One up to the Premier League. Kieran McKenna clearly rates him very highly if he's kept him in the Premier League and not looked to upgrade him or anything like that. Clearly thinks he can adapt. Now, the key with Davis, of course, is that in this 4-2-3-1, Davis likes to go forward. And Zielinski, the left midfield, can come inside, and Davis can push on. So whoever's at right back, if it's Nedeljkovic, Bogard, Konsa, whoever it is, they are going to have to get used to seeing the whites of Leif Davis's eyes because he's going to want to push forward. And what that does mean is that if he can break forward, it means he can sort of do progressive passes up here. He can get it into Zielinski. He can look to overload the fullback, or he can break to the byline, which is very similar to what Aston Villa like to do. Get the left back forward, look for a cut back, look for a cross, get them to the byline, cause havoc out on the left, while when the left back goes forward, the 3 left of the back come across to form a back 3, and the 2 midfield, Morsey and Phillips, sit in front of them as an anchor, which is kind of like very similar to what Aston Villa do, actually. And what it means is that, as I say, if Leif Davis gets the byline, it means you can have Liam Delap coming across or sitting back, waiting for the ball into him. It's basically cut back central. And what do modern Premier League managers like? They don't like crossing very much. Crossing is low percentage, how much you can score from it. What they prefer is get into the area, get to the byline and pull a ball back direct into someone's feet, because the chances are they're going to touch the ball and score more so than a cross, which seems a little bit more like gambling. So yes, that's what that enables. Leif Davis is that man to enable Ipswich to do that. Now let's look at some of his stats. Now in his first season with Ipswich in League One, he got 14 assists and 3 goals in 43 games, which is lovely stuff. He was 22 years of age at the time. His first real kind of season of regular first team football. Then he steps up into the Championship, and you're thinking, right, how can he adapt to that? Well, he adapted extremely well. 21 assists. That is a phenomenal record. 21 assists and 2 goals in 42 Championship games. That's an assist in pretty much every other game. Tremendous record. Now, this season, he's already recorded 1 assist, which was against Fulham, where he intercepted the ball, burst forward between the lines, cut it inside, And Liam Delap went on a run and scored an absolute screamer. I think it's little bit generous to give it an assist in the same way as Ross Barkley giving it to John Duran's screamer against Everton was an assist. It's not the typical assist you'd expect him to get, where he takes all their corners, from both sides, or when he can get to the byline and cut it across. That's not the sort of assist, but it was from him intercepting the ball and progressing between the lines and cutting it across. So you have to say that his progressive work is what ultimately led to the goal. As brilliant a finish as it was from Liam Delap, who should probably take most of the credit for it, really. But no, there you go. You can see his involvement. Now, he takes set pieces, corners from both sides, as I said. So you can probably expect him to get a decent number of assists this season if they score enough from corners. Last week they did score from a corner, Sam Morsey, though it was in the second phase where the ball bounced out to Morsey on the edge of the area. Now, if you look at his FB ref stats as well, Leif Davis is in the top 12% fullbacks for assists and top 14% for shot creating actions, averaging 3 a game. And if you look at his successful pass map of the last Ipswich game at home against Fulham, the 1-1 draw, you can see he's heavily involved up and down the pitch, venturing into the final third a fair bit. And you can see where he takes the corners. A lot of them aren't just whipped into the box. A lot of it is actually passed into Omari Hutchinson on the edge of the area. Now, Hutchinson's a player I'm going to focus on a little bit more in a second as well. Against Fulham, Leif Davis had the most shot creating actions in the team with 6, third most carries or touches with 30, and he had the most take-ons against an opposition defender with 4 attempts, with 2 being successful. So I think you could just tell from those stats at least that he's an adventurous player and he tries to make things happen. Now, he has had a baptism of fire in the Premier League. First game, Liverpool away, Mo Salah. Then he has to go up against Savinho at Man City. Then Adama Traore at Fulham. Then Minter at Brighton. And then Tyler Dibbling, who's a really talented young player at Southampton. Who's he got next up? Probably Leon Bailey, which is why I think this is a key area here. And I think last week, Ait-Nouri pushing forward from left back for what Wolves in the first half caused us absolute havoc in the first half. And we were extremely lucky to be going in just 1-0 down. I thought Ait-Nouri seemed a bit uncontainable, really. Leon Bailey, coming on in the second half, pinned Ait-Nouri back and cut off that threat. And I think it was a massive part in why Wolves became much less threatening. And I think Leon Bailey is going to have to pin back Leif Davis. And I think that as well, bear in mind, Bailey's going to have to do some defensive work as well if he's the one who starts at right midfield. As well, Philogene could play there as well if he's fit. So I think the game is going to have to be Leon Bailey and Philogene sticking it to Leif Davis, being defensively aware of him, but just going at him, pinning him back, forcing him to have to work defensively, and by that means cutting out what he can do going forward. Now, against Liverpool, I'll show you some highlights of Leif Davis so far, where he's been caught. He got caught here. You see, he's got his arm up. Salah got in on his blind side. I think in the first half against Liverpool, Ipswich did a really good job, kept them very, very quiet. Liverpool didn't really do anything. In the second half, the world-class talent told, and Mo Salah, I think he was the one to change the game. Well, him and Trent were the 2 players to really change the game. Alexander-Arnold was pushing further forward, spreading the passes around, putting passes in behind, and ultimately Salah's runs, I think, just caught Leif Davis out and got him behind, gets the ball across to Jota, who makes it 1-0. Second goal, once again, Salah gets in on the blind side of Leif Davis and scores a goal himself. So a bit of a baptism of fire there. And then the next week, Davis again has to go against Savinho. Savinho goes at him, goes into the area. Leif Davis gives away a penalty for City's first goal. But in that game, you also saw what he can do progressively. So he pushed into the final third, and that drew in 2 City players, Rico Lewis having to come back and mark him, but Savinho himself having to come all the way back, which is why I mentioned Leon Bailey might have to do the same. Leif Davis pushed all the way into that final third, cuts into the area, and Savinho brought him down. It should have been a penalty. I've watched that highlight over and over again. How on earth VAR didn't give that as a penalty? I no idea. So Ipswich should have had a pen out of it, and that should have come from Leif Davis pushing into the final third, getting two players drawn into him and forcing the attacking player to come back and mark him and clumsily tackle him. Now against Fulham, I mentioned it earlier, that's where he got his assist. See here, he intercepts his pass from deep, charges through the Fulham midfield, through the lines, gets into the Fulham half, so progressively carrying that ball, great progressive carry. Then a nice vision to pass it into Liam Delap, who strides very far forward from close to the halfway line and scores an absolute screamer. So good work from Leif Davis and Liam Delap in that game. Again, another goal conceded from that side by Ipswich, where I think it's Anthony Robinson pushes the ball, sends a great ball low and hard across from the left-hand side for Fulham. And Adama Traore's found space. I don't know whether Leif Davis could have been a bit more aware of where Traore was, maybe. Whether it's just such a brilliant ball, there's not really a lot he can do about it, whether it's just being a bit pedantic in that sense. But the fact of the matter is, it's another goal from that side. Adama Traore scores the one, and Traore as well did have quite a bit of joy in that game, pressing on forward. And again, another goal conceded against Southampton last week through that down that side, and that came from Tyler Diblin getting in between Jacob Greaves and Leif Davis and scoring a goal. And I'd say the week before, the 0-0 against Brighton, I think credit to, I think it was Calvin Phillips was in centre midfield. He came across and opened up a gap, therefore, that Jorginho Rutter had run into. Scott Minter put him in. And again, it was between Davis and Jacob Greaves. I think Phillips' positioning was what ultimately led to this chance happening. But Rutter then went and had a chance, and it was a brilliant save from the Ipswich keeper. So I'm just, as much as I've bigged up that side, where I think they can really threaten Villa, I think a lot of their attacking play this season is going to come down that side through Leif Davis's progressive play. What I would say as well is that there is a bit of a trend so far where they've conceded quite a few goals down that way. So they're just going to have to be quite careful, I think, this weekend, particularly with Morgan Rogers being such a predator, Ollie Watkins, who I'm sure can peel off, between O'Shea and Graves if Rogers comes inside centrally. And Watkins, kind of like he did against Wolves, when Rogers was central, Watkins immediately runs out between Wolves centre back and left back, and that's where he receives the ball and scores. Leon Bailey going at him, trying to get to the byline. This is an area Villa should really look to create quite a few problems. Just kind of try and exploit that sort of lack of experience, and just look at where they have conceded a few goals this season, Ipswich, and it is generally down that side. Though I think they're quite unlucky that they face some absolutely world-class players down that side so far this season. But that said, I think Leif Davis has a tremendous upside, and I think that going forward, defensively he's solid, but going forward, I really think he can offer quite a lot. Just to look at some other facts about him, he's recorded the second most progressive carries in the Ipswich team with 10 behind Omari Hutchinson. So it's showing he's moving the ball forward. He's trying to make things happen. He's moving it forward towards the opponent's goal at a decent rate. He's also the joint first for most progressive passes received. So he's getting forward. He's receiving the ball. He's making himself available. And in the last game at home against Fulham, 4 take-ons, 2 successful, 6 shot-creating actions, and he had 4 shot-creating actions against Southampton. So clearly a player who likes to make things happen, and a player certainly to watch this season. And if you play fantasy football, probably a cheap option to have in your team. Now, 2 other players that have caught my interest as well, Omari Hutchinson and Liam Delap. Now, I'll focus on Hutchinson first. He's 20 years of age, joined from Chelsea this summer. He was on loan at Ipswich last season, where he scored 10 goals, and he got 6 assists in the league. So a very key player for them as well last season. And clearly, Kieran McKenna thinks there's so much upside within him that he's a player who can make the step up into the Premier League. So they signed him, spent a big chunk of money to get him in from Chelsea. His FBref stats, there's a lot of green here. Now, the thing to bear in mind as well with a lot of these FBref stats with Leif Davis, Hutchinson, and Liam Delap, of course, is that this is in the Championship, different kettle of fish in the Premier League. So it is only comparing them to kind of the level they're at last season. It's a different standard this year, so it will look a bit different. But it's worth just showing it because the Championship's still a very, very high level. When it comes to progressive carries, Omari Hutchinson, top 4% of all attacking mids, top 10% for touches in the opposition area, and top 11% for progressive passes received. Defensively, he's also very, very sharp. A lot of green here as well. And I think this likely hints at Ipswich being a high pressing team, is my guess. He's in the top 10% for tackles, decent interception numbers, and top 3% for blocks. So he has a lot to offer progressively, and I suspect impressing from the front. That's what I suspect. I don't think Ipswich are a deep lying team. I think those defensive numbers have gone up through that. I think it's from just pressing the opposition. So Villa, going to have to watch out for that. Our defenders. Now, he has the most progressive carries in the team this season at 15, second most progressive passes at 12, and he has the joint most progressive passes received with Leif Davis at 17. He also scores high on the take-ons. In his last game, he had 6 take-ons against Southampton with 3 successful. Now, a couple of things I've noticed with him. He's good on the breakaway. Here against Liverpool, look at this. There was a corner in the first half, and he bursts into space, gets that ball all the way up the pitch, gets it right to the edge of the Liverpool area. I think he'd probably look at it and wish he'd got to manage to just take the Liverpool defender on rather than cut inside, get a shot away. Because once he cut inside, the Liverpool defense got back, but he still did get the shot away. So, got a shot on target from that. He also did something similar against Brighton, where he went on a big, long breakaway. And something I've noticed he does as well is this: he gets to the edge of the area and he receives the ball. And I think with Hutchinson, I think this area, if you can see it on YouTube, and on for those listening, I would describe it as close to where Pau Torres stands, that left centre back. It's that sort of area between close to the opposition area. This area is where I think he is quite threatening, and it's somewhere that he can link up with a Wes Burns going out on the right. It's somewhere he can pick out a Liam Delap, making a run inside, or as Modric, or if Liam Delap comes across, takes out a defenders, Modric coming in here, or Leif Davis has come forward. And we saw that against Southampton. Hutchinson gets the ball, cuts in onto his left, so he gets it away from the defender. He receives the ball and he cuts inside on his left, and it's Leif Davis coming in at the back post, and Davis hits the post. So you see Davis' progressive actions, and you see Hutchinson picking him out, and you can see what they can do when they push that left back forward, and you can see that Hutchinson is able to pick out a player from that exact zone I just described, that kind of edge of the area, or close to a left centre back, opponent left centre back like Pau Torres. He does it where he received the ball from Leif Davis, and again in that danger zone, he cuts in on his left, comes across, and he whacks a shot, which was really well saved from Aaron Ramsdale against Southampton. He's done it a couple of times this season. He hasn't yet got his goal. I don't think he's got his assist either yet, but you've seen enough this year and from last season to think those numbers are going to go up. And I suspect he's going to score a screamer or two this season from that exact area, edge of the area, where he cuts it side on his left and just fires it in low and hard. So Villa are going to have to be very aware of that he can offer that, cutting on his left and takes those corners. If you look at Leif Davis' pass map, those corners he takes, some of them are whipped into the area, but quite a lot of those arrows go straight to the edge of the area, and it's going to Omari Hutchinson. So Villa are going to have to be very aware of that, him cutting on his left, sending a ball across, or hitting a shot from deep. And then I'll just quickly cover Liam Delap as well. He's a very, very highly rated player, 21 years of age. They signed him from Man City, Rory Delap's son, so he can probably throw the ball about the length of from here to Mars, right across space, whack against a UFO and send it down somewhere. But look, he's got 1 goal so far this season and a fantastic finish against Fulham. Last season, he was on loan at Hull, got 8 goals in total for them in the Championship. It's again his first season where he's playing regular first team football. So again, that's a really positive start. I think it's a season where, it's something he can build on. Look at Morgan Rogers in the Championship last season. Again, playing for Middlesbrough, again from Man City's academy, playing his first team football on a regular basis, probably for the first time, really. And enough of the raw numbers suggest to you, that's a good start for a player that age. He can probably go a lot better. Liam Delap is showing those similar numbers, I think, last season. Can probably get a lot better. And now it's his chance in the Premier League, and he's already scored one brilliant goal. So, uh, look, the first goal was brilliant striding from distance from the halfway line, and he showed again what he can do striding from distance. Against Brighton, got the ball very deep in their half from a corner, and this is the second time Ipswich have done this. Omari Hutchinson did it against Liverpool on the break. Delap did it again against Brighton. Delap bursts forward, gets all the way up the pitch, right into their area, bullies the Brighton defender, holds him off, and hits the post. So could have got a second goal of the season there. So again, you're seeing that he's a player who can run from really, really deep areas. And he has a great stride on him. He's a very physical player that you don't particularly want to have to physically go one-on-one with. So again, I think Villa are going to have to be very wary of if Villa have a corner, if Ipswich win it back, those breakaways from deep, the Hutchinson and Liam Delap can go on. And also, we play our high line. They've already exploited one high line. Man City, Ben Johnson sent a ball in behind. Zmodic came in behind, got it one-on-one, goal. So they've shown they can break that high line with well-timed runs. But Liam Delap is another player who can do that. So again, we're going to have to be very wary of what they can do, just trying to go in behind. And I think particularly from Wes Burns and Zmodic, the two players, if they're sitting a bit deeper and trying to break Villa's high line, that might be an area we need to be very careful. But Liam Delap's going to be a handful. He's going to be a handful for Pau Torres and Ezri Konsa. He's going to have to chase a lot of lost scores. But he's going to be a physical unit of a player, I'm sure. But something else I wanted to point out as well, just about his FBref stats. Now, again, this was in the Championship, but what I mentioned about Morgan Rogers stepping up from the Championship to the Premier League and quickly improving. Sometimes those underlying numbers tell you there's a very special player here. In the Championship last year, top 1% for progressive carries, top 2% for take-ons, successful take-ons, top 12% for shot-creating actions. This, to me, looks like a player, from what I've seen so far, who has great physicality, who can run from deep, who can bully, but has a brilliant finish on him, and is a player who's not afraid to go at you, who's afraid to take you on. And just by his movement, by his link-up play, he can create shots for other players, create chances for other players as well. So Liam Delap is a player I think to watch out for this season. And I'm sure lots of Premier League clubs will be looking at this guy thinking, how far can he go? So, look, they were just three players that I wanted to point out, just because they're the ones that have caught my eye the most. Lots of other quality in there as well. We know Calvin Phillips is their top man, really. He's the player who, is the experienced head. England's international, Sam Morsy as well. There's two anchors in centre mid. They're going to have a plan for Yuri Tielemans or Ross Barkley, whoever it is who plays in that role. They're going to have to get a Burns or a Hutchinson coming back to support a Morsy, because let's face it, Tielemans is the main man. He is the player who's making things happen. But I think down this left-hand side, if it's Maatsen or Dean, we've got to go at Twanzebe, got to get Ramsey going at him. And I think that Watkins and Bailey have got to create quite a bit of havoc with their movement. I think what Villa have to do is impose themselves with their experience. You look at that Ipswich team, Liam Delap's 21, Hutchinson 20, Leif Davis 24, Jacob Greaves 24, Dara Shea 25. There's not loads and loads and loads of experience in there. And if you look at the other players who are a bit older, like Sam Morsy, not loads and loads of Premier League experience. So Villa and Axel Twanzebe as well, a bit older. He does have the Premier League experience, but Villa, I think, probably just have to survive the first 20 minutes. Ipswich made it very difficult for Fulham, got a great draw against them. They made it very difficult for Liverpool in the first half before I think that, the world-class ability told of a few of Liverpool's players. Aston Villa are probably going to have to do the same thing. Portman is going to be rocking. They've not had a game for a few weeks. So that first 20, 25 minutes, Villa can get caught. We can be a bit slow to start at times, like we were against Wolves. And if Ipswich come at us and Villa are slow to start, we've shown we concede early goals, Everton and Wolves. We have to learn from that. We have to stop conceding goals. We've conceded a goal in every bloody game this season in the Premier League. Just conceded again against Wickham. we've got to at some point keep a clean sheet, and I would suggest hopefully it's this weekend away at Ipswich. But if we're not careful in that first 20 minutes when they're at their most energetic, when they're pressing at their hardest, if we get caught and we concede, it could be a long way back for Villa to get back into that game. So what I'm hoping is that Villa can ride out that first 20 minutes, just go toe to toe with them, be physical, be strong. Don't get caught on the break throughout the game as well, which we've seen Ipswich can do to teams. Wary of Leif Davis coming forward. So if Leon Bailey and Philogene are going to have to do their defensive duties as well, but also in an attacking sense, just pin him back. But in the end, what Villa are going to really have to do, impose our quality with ball possession. Those lethal strikers we have, John Duran, a bit of a cheat code at the moment, Ollie Watkins, Morgan Rogers, Jacob Ramsey, Leon Bailey, Tielemans, Ross Barkley, those sorts of players who can impose ourselves, not just physically, but in a kind of ball retention manner, and eventually just try to tire them out and work those openings, probably in that second half like Liverpool did. That's what I think Villa might likely have to do, just ride out that opening storm, I think. But anyway, that's pretty much it from me. Hopefully you've learned a bit about Ipswich. As I say, you can learn a lot more from Benjamin Bloom, who I had the rivalries episode with this week. Please go download that. It was a brilliant interview with him. I really enjoyed talking to him. But other than that, that's it. And as I said before, please vote for us. Best podcast Premier League in the Football Content Awards. The link is on a description on Spotify, Apple, and elsewhere. It's also in our pinned comment on YouTube. Please vote for us. Please do. We need all the help we can get. Anyway, up the mighty Villa.